I knew I was out of place the second I saw the nameplate. Low-educated fake dad. It sat right there in front of my seat at my only son's wedding, printed in bold gold letters like some kind of cruel joke. Every other guest had their full, polished titles. Drive N, Professor Shah, CO Meta. And then there was me, the shame that wouldn't quietly fade into background. Laughter echoed from the bride's side. Some covered their mouths in mock courtesy. Others didn't bother hiding it. Their amusement spread to the marble hall. Like a slap I wasn't allowed to react to. I stood humiliated. The weight of 25 years of sacrifice settled heavily on my chest, crumbling into ash. I reached for my coat, ready to vanish without a scene. But then my son caught my hand. He didn't say sorry. He didn't stand up for me. He just leaned in close and whispered, "Dad, let's go home." And right then I understood. He knew. He saw what they did and let it happen. I didn't sleep that night. The laughter from the reception hall kept looping in my head, and the bride's father's smug voice rang loudest. Well, education matters. Blood doesn't automatically make someone a father. They looked at me like a fossil, a washed-up, grease-stained cab driver who didn't belong in their elite little club. And maybe, to them, I didn't, but I had been there every single day of his life. I changed his diapers with oily hands. I worked double shifts so he'd go to a good school. I skipped meals so he'd never feel hunger. I begged, borrowed, did everything so he wouldn't grow up feeling what I had to endure. But in that hall, none of it counted. To them, I was nothing. And worse, he let them treat me that way. It wasn't always like this. He once called me his hero. He was 5 when he asked why his mother had left. I told him the truth gently. She wasn't ready to love the way we deserve. He hugged me tighter that night. When he got a scholarship, I cried harder than he did. He promised, "One day, I'll take care of you, Dad, just like you took care of me." He lied. Success rewrote everything. The polished shoes, the fake accent, the fancy management job. Somewhere along the line, he stopped saying we and only said I. The next morning, I sipped my chai in silence. Then I saw it. A headline on his company's LinkedIn. Merger with N Biotech. The name struck me. N Biotech, the bride's father's company. This wasn't a wedding. It was a corporate merger. And I wasn't a guest. I was a liability they needed to erase. Suddenly, that insulting nameplate made sense. They wanted to cut away his past. Sever ties with the man who raised him. I wasn't family. I was a shadow they couldn't afford to be seen with. That afternoon, I went in my garage and unlocked a drawer I hadn't touched in over a decade. Inside sat an old, dusty laptop. Not dead, just waiting. I powered it up and opened a folder labeled R.A. Ka. My backup plan. I may not have finished school, but I've always been observant. For years, I had documented every financial move made to support his education. Receipts, loan records, repayment logs, all of it. And one file in particular, Project at, held something more. A trail of charitable donations funneled through a trust in my name. A trust his company used to fudge their R&D numbers. They thought I wouldn't notice. They used my ID to scrub their dirty books. But I didn't go to the police. I went to someone better, his co-founder's assistant. She used to work late when my son was still an intern. Back then, I brought food for him, and for her, too, when she had nothing. She remembered. All I said was, check the founder's quarterly filings. Look where the trust funds go. She didn't respond. 4 hours later, I received a text. Tomorrow, press will be there. Make sure you're watching. At 10:42 a.m., their company website crashed. Moments later, their Twitter page vanished. Then, a post appeared on LinkedIn, the co-founder's resignation. I refused to be part of this fraud. By 11:10, every major news outlet was flooded with leaked documents. Tax fraud, falsified expense reports, illegal use of charity funds, all tied to a trust in my name. At 12:03 p.m., a news anchor read, sources confirmed the alleged misuse of charitable trusts involved the groom's father, a retired mechanic and single parent. who unknowingly carried legal responsibility for years of financial misconduct. Their empire cracked. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I just sat by the window, watching the clouds roll in. That evening, my son came to see me. No reporters. No cameras. Just him. He looked smaller now, like the weight of everything had finally found him. He stood in the doorway and said, "Dad." His voice cracked. I didn't know about the nameplate. That wasn't me. I looked at him. "No, but your silence was." He didn't argue. "I raised a son," I said softly. "Not a product. Not a pawn. I gave you everything, even my name. And when they mocked it, you stayed quiet." He stepped closer. I didn't move. I raised a hand, calm, final. "You sold your soul to become one of them. But I didn't raise you to forget who you are. Now rebuild your life without what you so easily threw away." I turned and walked back inside. He didn't follow. They say revenge is loud. Mine wasn't. It was a whisper in a boardroom, a pause during a press briefing, a name once ignored, now feared. I was never fake. I was the foundation they tried to bury. And when they laughed, they didn't realize the ground beneath them was already beginning to crack. He called me low-educated. But in the end, I taught him his most important lesson, without ever raising my voice.